Redditors who work at the ER, what's the funniest/absurd reason someone was brought in? A woman came in after she cut her hand pretty bad making dinner. Instead of putting any pressure on the cut to stop the bleeding, she was just letting herself bleed into a large kitchen bowl. When asking what brought him in today, he said he was arguing with his sister about the car and how much this costs and carrying on. Had to stop and ask him again, why is he here? His reasoning was he was tired of arguing with his sister and would rather be admitted to the hospital. Over the course of an evening, 9 teenagers were brought in by their parents for hallucinations. None of them were able to tell us what was going on, and they trickled in over about 4 hours. The drug screens were negative, but they were all pretty badly out of it. Finally, one of the siblings was able to tell us they had all been at the same party. One of the teens had talked the others into trying mushrooms, except they were mildly poisonous ones instead of the ones you take for quote shrooms. They were all tripping like crazy for the night, and they had to stay in the ER until they were sobering up. It was amusing for the staff, but the parents were quite irate. A 15-year-old kid came in because he shoved one of those mini Nerf footballs, the ones with the tail that make noise when you throw them, in his butt, and when he tried to pull it back out, the tail came off. Your butt is basically a vacuum. We got it back with some long pliers. As a kid, my mom's EMT stories seemed hilarious, but as an adult I don't think I'd have the patience to tolerate so many people's crap. That being said, here goes the story. They get a call that a guy has a severe nosebleed, is already feeling dizzy, losing a lot of blood, and can't stop it. Needless to say, they floor it, thinking the guy might bleed out, get there in very short time. They ring the doorbell, a guy answers. They ask him to take them to the victim. He says they're talking to him. Not one drop of blood on the guy's face or clothes or anywhere, cheeks all rosy, doesn't look like he's lost a lot of blood, so they ask what the deal is. He says it's hard to explain, but he was worried they wouldn't send him an ambulance if he was honest about his symptoms, and he's in a lot of pain. My mom tells him to sit down and tell them about the symptoms while they take his blood pressure. Guy says he'll do all of that, except for the sitting down part. Now, I bet you all know where this is going. Turns out he'd been trying to convince his girlfriend to do anal. She wasn't into it, was afraid it would hurt. So the guy says, if I show you on myself, will you do it? She reluctantly said yes. So the guy lubes up a thin aluminum flashlight, 2 centimeters thick, 15 centimeters long, bends over and jams it up his own ass. He's got it good and up there, holding on to the end with 2 fingers. However, the flashlight, being cheap, wasn't machined properly in the factory, and a small burr on the rim pricked his colon from the inside. So he jolts upright from the sharp pain, the lubed up flashlight escapes his finger and gets schlupped up his bum. So they put him on a stretcher, and the driver says into the radio, ambulance 98 returning, 28-year-old male with severe constipation and foreign object in his rectum. It's a flashlight, in case it matters. So, Yup, you heard that right, we're bringing you a firefly, stand by. Mine is mailed a scorpion. This lady was opening a new air conditioning unit that was shipped to her, and somehow a scorpion had gotten inside and stuck to the tape. It stung her as she opened the package. Girl came in saying she had a lump in her V. Very worried about it. Examination revealed nil abnormalities. On further questioning, her new boyfriend said he felt it during sex. It was her cervix. Had a guy come in after smoking weed with his friends, and then he also did PCP. His friend got very paranoid and he became aggressive towards them, so naturally they attacked him. With a samurai sword. I didn't work in an ER but was a patient, and someone a few stalls down from me was flipping out because the pot brownie he ate was too strong. It was kinda funny. He kept saying, I can't breathe, and the nurse was like, but you're breathing just fine, and someone else he was with said, I told you not to eat the whole thing. Bottle of hot sauce stuck up the rectum. It was glass and I was so surprised it didn't shatter. He had to have emergency surgery to remove it, and you guessed it, he said he just went to sit down on his recliner and happened to sit on the hot sauce. I once went to the docs for severe constipation, and the doctor said if X, Y, and Z don't work it may need to be removed digitally. And I said, it's amazing what we can do with computers nowadays, and nobody laughed, and I'm still pissed about it. Some dude tried to light a bottle rocket stuck in his ass. 2nd-degree burns across his back, 3rd-degree burns on his chocolate starfish. Poor guy couldn't even lay on his back because it was too painful. Play stupid games, win a crispy butthole. Visit reason, cannot find pulse. She walked in. I'm a cop and was posted at the ER on night shift once, and a woman came in because she got bit by a snake in her yard. She was panicking because of it. Her hand was really swollen. One of the nurses asked if she saw what kind of snake it was and she said no. A couple of minutes later these two boys, maybe 12 to 13, came running and holding a decapitated snake in pieces inside of a Ziploc bag. They had rode their bikes from their house to the hospital to show the doctors the snake that bit this lady. Like these kids heard about what happened and went on her yard to kill the snake just to do this. It was funny and oddly heartwarming. Head lice. The weird thing is our quarantine protocol for that was more strict than for someone with COVID symptoms. Nurse here. Can confirm. I would also like to say that I've seen amputations from yard saws, brain injuries, all types of sicknesses, etc., and not been bothered but screamed and jumped back the first time I ever saw someone with pinworms falling out of their butt. I've seen people so full of bugs, you can see the bugs jumping ship in the exam room. Just jumping off the person, multiple species. Just gross. We used to catch them and scare the squeamish nurses with them. For me, personally, was watching a well-dressed woman with sticky lice eggs on the back of her head. Granted, I was in a subway with her. I crammed myself so hard against the train window to keep away from her. My mom worked in the OR and said there were so many guys who ended up there because of things they slipped and fell on. The craziest one for her was the guy who slipped and fell on a snow globe. Finally, I can add something. A friend of my brother worked in an ambulance for a year. His funniest incident was the guy that slipped and fell on a frozen fish. The fish obviously defroze and his gills became sort of a barb. Some mofo walked in saying he saw Jesus, Buddha and Allah eating sushi at the local park. His pockets had packets of coke and weed. Jesus, Buddha and Allah were just a white kid, Asian girl and Arabian kid sitting together. When I was a nursing student, one of my classmates had the following story happen. I was in the ICU at the same hospital. Patient came in and had a vertical gunshot wound through the abdomen. The wound did not damage any organs or major blood vessels, and did not seem to damage anything beyond fatty tissue and skin. The patient tried to maintain that someone shot them, until they were informed that if someone else shot him, it would complicate matters, and a full police investigation would be mounted. Then the real story came out. Guy was trying to stuff a gun in his waistband or something, and shot himself. Guy came in and handed over a note saying he had a vibrator stuck in his arse, it had gone past the sphincter. My empathetic workmate asked him had he come in to get the batteries changed. I am not in the medical field, had to take my husband to the ER one night. He got his peen stuck in the zipper of his jeans. We tried to solve the problem ourselves and after 2 hours we gave up. They gave him a shot to numb the area. It took 2 people pulling and tugging to get it free. The doctor's exact words: "It looks like you took a cheese grater to it." He wears boxer briefs now. I guarantee we were the talk of the ER for a long time. Had a guy come in at 3 a.m. because he was out of colostomy bags. We don't carry a large amount of these supplies and the ETA lady came in because she said she gained weight and didn't want to. Had a guy come in because his hip grazed a side table. No bruising, no swelling, no redness, walked into the no gait issues. Said he thought he broke his hip. I was once in the ER because I climbed a tree that was apparently wrapped in poison ivy. I got completely covered, head to toe. Even my boys. I had this insane white reaction on my skin that made me look like a zombie for a while. This was the most uncomfortable time of my life. It really sucked. Not me but my mom. Worked as a nurse in the Air Force. She said she had one kid come in who glued quarters to his third leg. Story I've heard over a decade ago from my mom nurse. They got a guy, trouble breathing, X-ray of lungs shows something weird. She said it looked like a massive infection, or something. He went into surgery, went out that it was a tapeworm that, well, got lost. My buddy was a roofer. He was hot tarring a roof when someone knocked over the bucket of boiling hot tar. It soaked on his face. This guy, being the tough as nails psycho that he was, drives himself to the walks in calmly. The nurse sees him and gasps. So he rubs his stomach and says, "My tummy hurts." Girl came in from a frat party in an ambulance. Clocked in a 4.4 BAC, got her stomach pumped. Apparently thought limoncello was just a fancy brand of lemonade. My dad told me about a college-aged kid that walked into the ER with a curtain rod that got stuck in his ass. When he came in, it was dragging on the ground behind him. 20-something-year-old female came to the ER around 2 a.m. for pain after intercourse. She said her boyfriend was big and he hit something. Her boyfriend shows up shortly after and was a black fella with dwarfism and an afro nearly as tall as his overall height. He walked in strutting for sure. He must have been able to lean on his Johnson like a tripod from the sound of it. A guy tried to walk over his campfire. With Crocs on. Mom worked in the ER, so I was meeting her for lunch. Dude was rolled in covered in fishing lures. Apparently his buddy had put the tackle box on the dash, and when they had to slam on brakes it flew open. He has them all over his face, down his arms, and stuck to his chest and stomach. You could see him trying not to move because any stretch of skin would pull at the barb. It was nuts. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, show your support. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below.